Wow. Creative Assembly's apology tour continues. I seriously thought they'd chill out, but they just keep dropping bangers. They just keep giving us fans that triple gok 3000. They can't be stopped right now. All right, enough glazing, but in all seriousness, I really thought Creative Assembly was done with free updates and the next big thing would be, at least like $10 or $15. But no. CA just released the Dynasties update for Total War Pharaoh, and hot damn. This not only adds the much needed cultures of the Aegeans and the Mesopotamians, but it also adds features and mechanics that make this more in line with an actual full-fledged historical title. So, they're really giving historical fans what they want. I know I literally just said enough glazing and then continued to glaze, but whatever. Let's go ahead and dive into all this and take another look at Total War Pharaoh. Oh, and yeah, guess my usual YouTube intro. Hello everyone, I'm Troy, and that's right, today I'm looking at Total War Pharaoh again. This is actually kind of a third time because I did briefly cover the Sea Peoples update earlier this year, but this most recent update, Dynasties, is so much larger. Shit, Pharaoh is nearly an entirely different game at this point. So I do think we have to give credit where credit is due. If you're unfamiliar with this epic tale, I did review Pharaoh back in October when it first released, and yeah, I was very disappointed. I thought the game was overpriced, I thought it lacked content, and generally just kind of a letdown for what was supposed to be Creative Assembly's next big historical Total War set during the Bronze Age collapse. And the numbers, they reinforce that. Pharaoh sold like dog shit, and the player count has just floundered far below the much older and superior historical Total War games. And because of this, ever since the cancellation of Hyenas, really, whatever the fuck that was supposed to be, CA has really been on a big apology tour. They're promising not only free content for Pharaoh, but also, more appropriately priced content for Warhammer 3, and in general, just better communication and treatment of their fans, which for the past 2 to 3 years, they've just treated us like shit. So yeah, Creative Assembly, they're really out here trying to make amends, and this Dynasties update is all part of that. But what's all here? Is it really that great? How does Pharaoh stack up now as a full-fledged historical Total War game? Let's go and start out by laying out what exactly is included here in Dynasties. The main meat and potatoes of the update is the addition of 2 new playable kingdoms, each with 2 major factions, as well as a massive map expansion in order to include these playable factions. And these are the Aegeans and the Mesopotamians. The Aegeans are factions surrounding ancient Greece and the previously locked western edge of Anatolia, or modern-day Turkey. These include the Mycenae, led by King Agamemnon. I can never say his name. I'm going to be butchering a lot of names here, just warning you. And then my main faction, the home team, the city of Troy, led by King Priam. Of course, I had to go with Troy on my first Dynasties playthrough. There's just something that tickles my ego hearing my soldiers go, "For Troy." I'm like, yeah, for me, that's me. Anyways, yes, these are factions that were present in CA's previous Bronze Age spin-off, Total War Troy. But Dynasties definitely leans more into the historical, where Troy kind of towed the line more with historical and fantasy. It's fresh to see these factions in a bit more of a grounded setting. Then there are also the Mesopotamians, also with 2 major factions here. There are the Assyrians, led by, and again, gonna butcher this, Ninurta Apal Akum.
Huh?
I've barely gotten to play as them yet, but they are the only faction in Pharaoh to include normal cavalry, which to my understanding was very rare at this time, and the Assyrians were kind of like the first to do it, so it's pretty cool. Your other faction in Mesopotamia are the Babylonians, led by, again, this is going to be rough, Adad Shuma Assur. I really hope no one knows how to pronounce these that's watching this. The Babylons I did play with a bit, and they also kind of have a unique tall playstyle focused on quickly building up their provinces with more powerful buildings. However, this is at the cost of their military, which is kind of lacking a bit. A tall playstyle is something you have never really seen in a Total War game, at least for quite some time, as usually the focus is playing on wide and conquering as much as the map as possible. So Babylon here is actually quite unique, and I very much appreciate that. Just in general, the major factions introduced here are all fairly unique, and from what I can tell and I've played, they definitely stand out from one another. You know, for instance, Troy kind of focuses on having big alliances and is the only faction that benefits from having other cultures' influences in their lands. Along with these major 4 factions, Dynasties also introduces just a slew of minor factions that you can play as. Now, these minor factions don't really have any crazy unique abilities or units or buildings like the major ones do, but they do offer unique starting positions. Each culture has like 4 to 5, and this includes the base game cultures here too, and the Egyptians, the Canaanites, and the Hittites. So in total, Dynasties adds approximately like 20 to 30 minor factions for you to play with. Some of these minor factions are even well-known historical or rather non-historical figures such as Achilles and Odysseus. So yeah, this wide variety of cultures and factions is just what Pharaoh needed. Even if some of these factions do feel a bit samey, there is definitely enough here to play with. So along with a slew of new factions, there was obviously a huge map expansion to accommodate these new kingdoms. Previously, it was just Egypt, the Levant, and Central Anatolia. Now they've expanded to include all of Anatolia, Greece, and Mesopotamia. The map has almost doubled in size. And yes, guys, I know, I'm in shock too. This is all still part of the free update.
It's free real estate.
Kinda wild. CA is just probably just throwing money at us right now. It's like when you see the $1.50 Costco hot dog and you're like, how are they making money off that? And then you realize they're not. And yeah, that's Creative Assembly right now. I gotta say, the map, it looks pretty damn good. It seems like there aren't very many battle maps yet for these areas, as I did run into a fair amount of repeats. But regardless, these areas look beautiful on both the campaign and in battle. And I particularly enjoyed that area of the map. Playing as Troy and fighting across the islands between Greece and Western Anatolia was amazing. Now, there's Mesopotamia. This area is a bit more of your standard river in the desert like the Nile. Really not a huge difference here, but still the adjacency to Anatolia and the new cultures here do give it a nice, fresh feeling. Dynasties was also surprisingly difficult. I don't know if they buffed or improved the AI, but I was having a tough time playing on normal. And last I remember, when I played in October, I really breezed through normal. I usually play on hard or very hard in Warhammer 3, so it definitely felt more difficult this time around, which I think will generally appeal to the Total War audience. It could be that I was just rusty too, but it felt more difficult. Dynasties also does something that historical Total War fans have been asking for quite some time. Reintroduces family trees and also, well, dynasties. And the family tree means that yes, your leaders and family members can permanently die. Rather easy, I will remind you. So things like keeping a faction leader safe when he is devoid of heirs is important, and this increases the historical immersion and emergent storytelling. This also puts Pharaoh more in line with history rather than fantasy, which is what historical fans wanted. You know, sure, the character system of 3 Kingdoms and Warhammer is cool, but it's played its course. For historical titles, especially ones more grounded in reality, we want more grounded mechanics. I did not like how the base game Pharaoh seemed almost in line with Total War Troy or 3 Kingdom with its fantastical and immortal leaders. Along with the reintroduction of the family tree, they also have your dynasty tree. This is for the head of the entire kingdom, should you so have it, and you can actually adopt characters from other factions into your dynasty tree. This obtains, political bargaining chips in exchange for their shot at the crown. It's all very interesting and emergent, and this layered on top of the already great diplomacy and resource trading that base game Pharaoh offered, we have one of the best diplomatic systems in a Total War game, rivaling even that of 3 Kingdoms. There's also just a slew of new units introduced. However, in my opinion, Pharaoh still does suffer from a lack of cool or interesting units, and I really do think that is just a symptom of the time period. You can tell that Creative Assembly went for a more historically grounded, and I dare say accurate, because like the city of Troy and Agamemnon are really just Greek legends. Regardless, the units and systems are meant to feel and look more realistic. The Bronze Age was not a very technologically advanced time in human history. It was very, very ancient, so there just isn't much to work with here. But I do commend CA for sticking with a more historical approach. The Bronze Age is definitely the most far back that Creative Assembly can go, unless they start doing like Total War Caveman, I don't know. So considering that, I do think that the units introduced here are good for what they are. All right, so that's mostly what's here in the Dynasty update. Of course, each kingdom has its own gods and ancient legacies, but that's really the meat of what's here. And I gotta say, especially considering that Pharaoh is still at the discounted price of only $40, Total War Pharaoh is absolutely worth it now. Rescoring with everything considered, I'd maybe give it a 9. It is hard for me to do a 10 because the Bronze Age just ain't really my first pick for a Total War game, but you cannot deny that the content value is here, and it is cool to see these ancient kingdoms and this era play out in a Total War game. And the numbers don't lie too. Looking at the Steam charts, you can tell this Dynasties update is doing far better than the base game Pharaoh was doing. Before Dynasties, Pharaoh was sitting, lower than 1,000 most times. The buzz around Dynasties is pretty positive. Total War Pharaoh is now, without a doubt, the definitive Bronze Age Total War game. This is what we should have gotten initially, but alas, better late than never, I guess. I'd say this would even be worth a full $60. So yeah, at $40, if you like Total War at all, go out and play it. It's a steal, and it's a good game. Great job, Creative Assembly. You guys just keep kissing our butts, and it's working. You are restoring my faith as a fan. However, as I've said in the past, we will never forget. Forgive, but do not forget. I'll always be keeping my eye on Creative Assembly so they don't slip back into their old ways. But damn, do I hope Total War keeps going along this path, because that means we're probably going to get some pretty good shit soon. Fingers crossed. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I do all types of content, even outside of Total War, but I do love Total War, so I will continue to cover it here. Also let me know down below what your thoughts are on Total War Pharaoh Dynasties. Is this now the definitive Bronze Age Total War game? Or is there still something missing? Perhaps you just can't bring yourself to forgive Creative Assembly for past transgressions. And to that, I say, namaste. I don't know. I couldn't think of anything clever there. It's okay to forgive them. We got to if we want to have some good Total War games, but like I said, forgive, but never forget. Anywho, thanks again. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.